Michael Marx is here, who's a friend of the industry, actually. I've had the pleasure of listening to Michael's presentations, as have many of you in this room. And I think Michael is kind of like a little comfort blanket for Bill. And I think we're going to start off softly. Michael, please come on up.
I am the safe one. I'm the nice one. Just so we know. And frankly, this is an honor for me to be sitting here. I mean, you guys are the big dogs. If you look at the inductees, this is a serious big deal. And so I am personally very honored. And I've known Bill for long enough, I'm not going to tell you how long. And I'm just not sure 5 minutes is enough time to actually talk about all of his accomplishments. So to get some focus to this, what I did is I sent an email out to every staff member at IMCO and said, if you can share some of Bill's accomplishments with the group, that will help me get a focus. And this is really going to be easy for me because they put it all together in an envelope and they told me not to open it till I get here, so all I have to do is read it and we're good to go. So here we go. Oh my. Stall a lot and then tell little Johnny jokes. I think I'm going to tell the truth. And I've known Bill in a lot of ways that maybe you guys haven't. I mean, obviously not in the biblical way, Susan, don't feel any pressure. But Bill and I share a common disease. And it has to do with automobiles and high performance and horsepower and doing silly things. It's like the most fun you can have in a car. And Bill's always had this phobia. He didn't want anybody to know that he really liked high performance cars. And so he thinks this is a giant secret in the industry and that nobody knows. So I would like to see a show of hands of how many people in this room know that Bill is a closet caraholic. Oh, Bill, the secret's out. My. Golly. Now, he's driven a car at Sebring at 150 miles an hour. He's done a lot of stuff, but he's got an idiosyncratic way of driving. And he would come, I live about an hour and a half south of him. And he'd fix up his car. He had this NSX. It was all, he had superchargers and turbochargers and intergalactic grand poobah things on it. And he'd keep bringing it down and he'd want me to drive it. And I'd drive it, and then I'd let him drive my car, which had about another 400 horsepower than his did. And he was just, there was like a penis envy thing going, So then he'd go back and he'd work in the car again and bring it back, and we just, and I kept working. This has been going on for years, I will tell you. Now, here's the idiosyncratic driving thing. Bill loves high-performance cars. If you're going somewhere and Bill's driving, all you have to do is talk about the car and the performance, and he'll take off at like 80, 90 miles an hour, right? I mean, he's talking about the car, he's just zooming, he's passing. Now, as soon as you're not talking about the car, that's why they call him Parnelli Daisy, like driving Miss Daisy, because he gets slower and slower, and all the cars are going by, and you're never going to get anywhere. But he gets very steamed up. So when I drive a Porsche, and so when he and I would get out, in Porsches you call it boosting. You find somebody that's you can yank their string, and I'll get up next to him and I'll go zoom by, and he's going to go, he's not going to get me. And so he takes off, and he gets, he goes fast enough. So he's out far enough in front of me that the instant on radar will get him, and I'll just kind of drive along behind knowing he'll get the ticket. We've been doing this and then he'll slow down, zoom by again, and it's totally predictable. So he's just got this car thing. Now, the interesting thing I got to tell you about the car is it meant an untimely demise, and it got all kind of like wrinkled up and small. Now, sorry, that was I forgot the group I was with. It was a bad choice of words. In any case, the interesting part about Bill, and this explains why he belongs where he belongs at IMCO, is that this car is old. I mean, it's a classic car, it's a collector car, it's all kind of fixed up. He goes to State Farm and convinces him that this thing, the poop came out in candy wrappers, this car was so special. And so they give him this outrageous sum of money. On top of that, he convinces them to give him the carcass, right, with all these parts, right? This is how people build this car to like race at Pikes Peak. He gets more for the carcass than he paid for it, but it was his. So he now has this really cool Audi, which is still slower than my car. But it's a guy thing. Now, but it does point out the fact that he's a brilliant negotiator. He is absolutely rabid, and as we all know, he's been rabid from the beginning about the power of independent distribution and that it will have ongoing redeeming social value and it will still be here. Remember back in 2000, we were all going to be replaced with websites and stuff? You know, we're still here. So, I mean, he's got that bias. He just can't help himself. He's always looking for deals, right? And anytime you have a deal, and anytime, how many people have been in a conversation with Bill and he tells you, I know a guy in China that can do that cheaper. Right? I mean, it's just... Now, a lot of people that negotiate with Bill, think that he's an absolute complete idiot. And I can tell you for a fact that that's factually not true. He's not a complete idiot. There are major pieces that are missing. But he loves to negotiate. He loves to talk. He carries on. Last year, I mean, he really cares a lot about money, and he thinks about deals, and he's always looking for the deal. I mean, we all know that. And I was at the IMCO convention last year, and I forget, they always do these fancy resort kind of things, and I'm walking around with him, and I'm smoking my cigar, because you got to be outside to smoke cigars. And we're walking along, and he's telling me about this deal that he just got with this supplier who's in the room and shall remain nameless. And what a great deal it was for his members, and even with the incremental growth, the supplier's really happy, and I'm going, yeah. And we're walking along, and all of a sudden these dogs start barking. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I could tell it was an odoriferous kind of thing. And this is proof that he is so tight that when he farts, only dogs can hear it. Caught me completely cold. Now, he takes this negotiating and money thing very seriously. He's got 2 wonderful children, and he felt it was important to prepare them for life in the world. And the first thing he did when they were very young, this has created some tension with Susan, is he told them that Santa had been killed in a mid-air collision so that he wouldn't have to buy him Christmas presents. Now that's what he got accused of by his wife, but that was in fact not true, because all he wanted to do is he wanted to see Bill do the research to verify that it wasn't true, because he said in any negotiation it takes proper preparation. So then he decided that he was going to teach him how to play poker. Now, being a caring father, as we all know Bill was, he did teach him to play. It started with 5-card draw. Little kids, they bet their money, because it had to be their money, and he kept it. They all had to learn that there were consequences to gambling. Disagree? No, he's just kind of looking. Now, I will tell you the punchline of the story, talking to Angie, one of the high points of the whole thing, which he says in later years, I beat his ass. You know, and it's kind of like what goes around comes around. Now, you know, there are rhythms in our lives. We all find these things. In terms of being a negotiator, one of the things he did when they were young is he had them start a lemonade stand. You can't make this stuff up. So this is IMCO, the future of IMCO. Bill's talking to Bill and Angie, and we're going to have a lemonade stand, but we're also going to have volume discounts. You know, 1 glass for 15 cents, 2 glasses for 20, had the whole thing all laid out, had it all worked out. Poor Bill has to go door to door, knocking on doors to make sure everybody knows, because you can't get an order if you don't ask. He's got Angie out stopping cars at the stoplight. Right? Hey, we got lemonade, it's a great deal. And they were so successful because this is the way the kids remember. You know how kids distort memories when they're in the middle of an abusive situation? What happens is they come back, and all of a sudden, well, you know, the neighbors really loved our initiative, and we were able to throw a really big party with the money we got for the neighborhood. Now, I want you to just think about this process for a second. Does this have any relationship at all to how an IMCO meeting gets planned and put together? Now, I mean, as you kind of go through this, the key thing I want to ask here, and this is the Healthcare Hall of Fame. This is a very important question. And we are in now the Healthcare Hall of Fame Witness Protection Program. We all know how much Bill loves to negotiate. And I would like to see a show of hands. Show of hands. And Bill, close your eyes. Close your eyes. They're not closed, Bill. I'd like to see a show of hands in all the negotiating Bill's done where you walked away with a little smile and go, I got the sucker. You notice the fear in the room? Not one hand went up. Not one hand went up. Whole room of people, big dogs. Now, and by the way, I mean, this is part of the leadership, it's part of the culture, it's part of the support for the members in IMCO, and I mean, he's like a rabid dog with that, you know. And he's always a guy that would always speak his mind as a leader, and that's why there have been so many long pauses in conversations with him. And he's also a great delegator. I was at they had me facilitate one of the meetings with his board and everything, and we're sitting there, and so he's got this stupid yellow legal tablet, and he's taking notes with this, and some people know where I'm going with this. Bill is the kind of guy you go into a bar with, and he says something to somebody, and then they beat the crap out of you. I mean, that's just all I can. So I'm sitting here being Joe facilitator, right? I'm a consultant. I know how to do this, and Bill's taking notes, and supposedly he's being the scribe. It's all great. And then we get down at the end, and we go to take a look at this set of notes, and they're absolutely undecipherable. I mean, I know physicians that could give him penmanship lessons, all right? Pat's the only one that can read them. What does he do that for? So that he never gets asked to take notes for anybody ever again, and we had to reconstruct the whole thing. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Now, he gets worried that people won't remember him. And it really bothers him. I mean, it's great to get an honor like this, but I mean, what happens when you fade away and people don't remember? And I'm confident that people are going to remember him. He's not going to like any of the things they remember him for, but he will be remembered. And one of the things that he shares with a great American philosopher from Los Angeles by the name of Rodney King. Rodney had this view that you know, why can't we all just get along? Everybody heard that, right? I mean, that one line, and it just echoed through the centuries. The line that people remember with Bill, years and years from now, is, you know, if we can just get each one of our members to sell one more case, we could get a better deal. How many different versions of the ways can you hear that? Now, one of the things you may not know, but he's really into martial arts, has been forever. This is also something that old men without adequate supervision often get involved in. He's been state champion 3 times in freeform fighting. He got a 3rd degree in Kendo in his 60s. He's a master instructor in Kung Fu. He's got all kinds of stuff. And we were just sitting here because he was so terrified about this roast. We were talking, he was reminding me about his ability to inflict pain on me before we even got up here. But there's some stuff that you don't know about this. And I mean, the key thing here is that he takes his pain and acupressure and all that. I mean, he was out fishing with a bunch of guys. Went to throw a fish back. Hook got stuck in his arm, or his hand, right? Now, most of us, we're in the healthcare business. You get impaled with a fishing hook, what do? You call a doctor, you go to the ER, you do something like that. What did Bill do? He speed dialed his acupuncturist to get advice. Now, because of all this martial arts training, he has absolutely no understanding. He doesn't understand the meaning of the word fear. Now, part of that's because there's a lot of words that he doesn't understand the meaning of at all. But part of the motivation for getting involved in the martial arts is that he's still sensitive about his height. And if you make fun of his height, he'll hit you. Right in the kneecap. It's very, very painful. Now, just remember, I'm the nice guy, so just to kind of frame it, but he's always cared about the healthcare industry. He wanted to be in the healthcare from the very beginning. I don't know if any of you guys know, but he actually started off as a pharmacist. How many people knew that? Pharmacy school. And he really loved it, but he finally gave up when he couldn't figure out how to get the prescription bottles in the typewriter, and he just couldn't make that work. So he decided to go into sales and just kind of go from there. And he hasn't really been himself since he heard about this award. Everybody said, he's more nervous, he's going crazy and everything, but I mean, he's a better person. I mean, haven't we all seen him improve from his normal self? He's actually more gracious and almost polite. Now, other people that have denied that they had any conversation with me described him as the most paranoid man in healthcare. And where are my NDC people? Raise your hands, raise your hands. I want everybody from NDC that's familiar with NDC to feel warm and special when you go to sleep at night, because every night before Bill goes to sleep, he thinks about you. The interesting thing on this whole deal, and it's kind of good that we can all laugh and be a little crazy, because this industry has buckets of challenges, and there's a number of urinary distance contests going on all across the industry in every phase of it right now. And it's also special that we're in the Fox Theater, right? Because this is where Gone with the Wind debuted first, right? Gone with the Wind, Sherman burning his way to the Civil War, big color movie, Clark Gable. There was a famous line in that with Clark Gable that shattered the censors, right? And the real reason, and we're having fun with it, but the real reason that Bill got this award by his peers is because, unlike some people and all the problems in this industry, he actually does give a damn. Thanks for your time.